Hello, YouTube and even BitChute friends. I haven't left YouTube because my strikes are, I think, almost finished. So I'm still here on YouTube. I was expecting the strikes to get more, to get a few more. I had two, and then one went away, and I got another one. So I've not been posting too much on YouTube, but hey. Uh, Apparently, well, what's a lowly artist? What's a lowly artist? What threat is a lowly artist to YouTube or the machinations of the world as they establish themselves more and more in their depravities? The types of people that are now uh, enforcing or forcing themselves on us. We're being meddled with on all levels. This is something that is quite from a you have this sort of libertarian perspective where you say, get out of my life. This comes up a lot. But everything is the opposite to that. People are so manipulated by everything, and the entire setup that we're in is geared towards manipulating and twisting and cajoling and bullying and all that kind of stuff. Okay, spondum, spondum, spontaneous and random insights from the studio. Since I'm still permitted to post on YouTube, I'll give it another shot. I'll I had some reflections today this morning on the nature of our reality and what it is that motivates people, and motivation from the point of view that there is something very wholesome and essential in our day-to-day activities, something that makes sense to us from a very fundamental, organic, truthful way of seeing the reality we're in. And my underlying thought today was that if we can detach ourselves to some extent, which is impossible, but I'm just saying as an exercise, to detach ourselves from all the activities going on around us. And most of the time, it is about conflict, the level of hurt that is being inflicted tends to make it difficult to detach ourselves because we become engaged with an external force that is acting on us more and more, as I said in my preamble, that manipulation. But what is it that is actually happening underneath all this? If we can kind of step back and look at it. And what I thought today was that this literally, and I'm sure this is not an original thought, that this experience is an exercise on how far we can progress toward an essential aspect of our nature, something that I would consider to be the highest level, the highest part of ourself. What I talk about often, the idea of conscience, to be living the right way. And this requires no external influence. The learning does, but the actual application of this aspect to our humanity, this sense of self that is rooted in the rightness of something, is independent. It requires no external influence, like the 10 commandments, or was it the 15 commandments? 5 were dropped. Mel Brooks figures that there were 3 tablets and one of them was dropped. So we don't really need to have that reinforcement. That reinforcement itself, the rules and the regulations and all the moral statutes and all the things that are being piled one on top of the other, is actually quite irrelevant to the very essence of our nature, which is I'm saying the highest part of ourselves, is grounded in a sense of rightness. And this exercise that we're going through on a day-to-day level is to see how we can establish this part of ourselves, this higher part of ourselves, in obviously in relation to everything that is going on around us. But it comes from an internal motivation. And I hear quite often people talk about like this Molyneux guy. I could actually, or Eckhart Tolle, and all these people have, for some reason, I don't understand this, these insightful, wise people, for some reason, are unable to recognize this very fundamental fact that everything originates from within. It's not something that is happening from outside. And I'm sure they would agree with me. But all commentary seems to continuously be preoccupied with the world out there. And then all the rationalizations and all the conclusions people come to about are ethical and moral, or the good and bad, evil, all this stuff is all something ultimately externalized, when it's not really how it works, because we are here in an exercise to establish that we can actually function from a completely, totally inner world. I know this, like I say, detachment is really not possible. I think this Buddhist philosophy, this kind of like fear and love, and then the third aspect is detachment. This is something that the sages and the swamis, or the fake sages and swamis, keep trying to enforce, that there's only love and fear, and fright and flight, or total love, and the sort of Jesus feeling of complete and total love for, yeah, but there is something where we can at least attempt to step back and say to ourselves, let's look at this in a detached or objective way. And what I arrive at, to the extent I can do it, is understanding that this experience, this physical experience we're all going through, is an exercise to establish the inner domain. As Jesus referred to, the kingdom of heaven is within. And many people have talked about this, but I rarely find satisfaction when I listen to others to really address this in a way that is meaningful and significant for me, to walk away from someone's thoughts and ideas and say, they really nailed it. I'm not getting it. A commentary is always about the world out there rather than the world within. And that ultimate, it's a very simple, I think it's a very simple, straightforward realization. You cannot get very complex in this, because I mean, the mystery of this is extraordinary, because what is it that happened in this origin of humanity that instilled this quality within all of us that we can strive toward? And there are many examples how people strive toward. I mean, creative activities, artistic activities can actually be very much a reflection of this inner world. Not the way we see in the institutions of fuck, like the museums, all these cultural institutions, these degenerate institutions, the kind of expressions that they exalt as being magnificent, has nothing to do with the search of that inner world. It may reflect that creative, I think the creative impulse always has this inner world aspect, but it is removed entirely. It's like sucking the soul out of us. When you see a work of art that is being exhibited by virtually all institutions of fuck now, it feels to me like there is an extraction of the soul happening, rather than something that is being presented and given to us. I'll end this with some thoughts on the shit show, the COVID shit show, and the reason it has been a shit show, and the reason it has been one of the great manipulations that has been going on outside of what people consider to be science, whatever that might actually be. It would be a nice idea to have a scientific discourse on all the things that are being propagated that we're supposed to believe from the realm that we actually live in on, that is not allowed to be discussed. We are forced, what is forced on us is a belief system about who we are, how we exist, where we might be coming from originally, and any kind of attachment that people have to the science idea is now completely off the table. The white coats have gone batshit crazy, a bunch of fucking retards that are basically going along with some sort of a dogmatic belief system that everybody has to agree to. And the reason this is happening, or the reason that I know this is happening, is because there is no discourse, as in the COVID shit show. We are not allowed to have a differing opinion. The narrative, the official narrative, can never be challenged. We're ridiculed, and you can go to many different YouTubers that have fabulous dissertations on how we're being manipulated and how we're forced to believe in something rather than to actually draw on that inner self, that inner awakening, that higher part of us. We're being presented with absolutely no discussion about anything. It is fait accompli. It is basically a decree. We live by decree. And the Ukraine shit show, the Ukraine Russia shit show, the Ukraine good, Russia bad, there is no opposition. There is no discussion about any kind of other point of view. Like the fact that Ukraine, this is, again, you can go to many YouTube sites. I really recommend what is it called, the Duran. Is it? Let's see. Yes, the Duran. Two people that discuss, two Alexanders discuss the nature of the Russian-Ukraine reality. I think their analysis is superb. It shows how dysfunctional the uh, that that balanced approach to a conflict, to something that we find, let's say, offensive. We always need to have this open mind feeling. And the reason this is being systematically destroyed is because we're not allowed to search that inner part of us. We are being prevented, in essence, with everything that is around us to make sure we externalize all our thoughts, opinions, and beliefs. There is nothing original or significant to ourselves, our inner self, that most people I talk to regurgitate the shit that they're being told. Not that you don't already know this. I'm just saying that my thoughts is that there is no discussion, which is the red flag. Whenever there is not allowed to be any discussion, with all the programs that are being unrolled, the Great Reset stuff, this Vernon guy who talks about, here's, I'll just mention this, Carl Vernon or whatever, the guy that sits in his granddad chair with his legs crossed and reads off a litany of depravities, which are all true, which is happening. And they continuously come out. He said, we have 8 months. And then Richie from Boston puts it up and said, we have 8 months. Yeah, we have 8 months, we have 8 years, we have 800 years. We've had thousands of years of this same thing going on all the time. It's nothing new. People, it's nothing new. This whole kind of prediction and the financial experts that come out and say, oh, Armageddon, yeah, eventually it'll all collapse. Eventually, like a cyclical thing happens over and over, and this is nothing new. And we have 8 months, Vernon, we have 8 months. It's like the fiasco on the climate change. You know, from the 60s onward, there were always 10 or 15-year collapse scenarios, and then 5-year everything collapsed, and then they push it ahead another 10 years, and all these things. Or let's say we go to Mars, by 2024 we'll be on Mars, or by the year 2020 we'll be on Mars, and then they push it further, and you have this Branson guy collecting huge coin from people to go fly through space, which is impossible as far as I'm concerned. There is no vacuum of space. Why do we have an atmosphere on this ball that isn't being sucked into space? All the weak force, gravity is like the weakest force is holding everything in. And well, I don't really know what gravity is, but yeah, it's keeping everything intact. So I the belief systems that contribute to us listening to people like Vernon who say, well, we have 8 months and then it's over. Well, it's been over for 6,000 years because the culture and the civilization we attach ourselves to is so degenerate and depraved. There are highlights. You know, you have the Mozarts and the Bachs and the Emile Zolas that pop out here and there reminding us, hey, it could be a lot better. But heck, that's just entertainment. That has nothing to do with what's really meaningful and important in life. And I say, well, why pay like $1 billion for a Van Gogh painting if it's just entertainment? It makes no sense, right? If it's just entertainment, why would these oligarchs, these owners, spend uh, their hard-earned money on a small little painting? It's like, why is that? Because in essence, everybody knows the substance of what it means to be a human being is contained within that creative act. But it's just entertainment for most people. It's like the thing is like first you get your fridges and your mansions and your cottages and boats and skidoos or whatever you indulge in, and then maybe you'll hang a painting. This is sort of the cultural highlight is to have how many pickup trucks are in your driveway, and they got to be the latest model. But do you have an original painting that provides soul to your existence? That doesn't happen, and there is a good reason for it not to happen, because if that ever happened, the whole game would be over for the owners. It wouldn't work anymore. So anyway, I think I'll leave it there. My comment. Hello, YouTube friends. For there has been an absence. The COVID shit show has been replaced for now by the Ukraine shit show, and keeping us in their headlights no matter what. I suspect, I suspect from my inner voice says they are not even near giving up, and it's going to take more than 8 months, Vernon. It's not going to be 8 months. It'll be years and years because the compliance rate is so high of most people. And a friend of mine said um, they're not going to be able to pull off a second shit show version in the fall or even summer now. There's talk within the ethers, the news medias, that, no masks, no distancing. The whole thing is going to start up again, and it's going to be like many, many cases, many, many, many cases. Cases are not deaths. Cases are not illnesses. Cases, cases, cases. So they're ratcheting it up. They're saying, okay, bless you, children. We're going to give you a little holiday from the shit show, but get ready. And by the way, in any of the federal institutions, they all have to still wear their diapers on their faces. They're not allowed to take them off. We, the peons, for the time being, are allowed to take it off until the shit show will start again. They're going to start the shit show again. Unless there is an epiphany, something that I'm hoping for still. I have hope. I'm saying, well, maybe there will be an epiphany and people say, fuck you, owners. We're no longer interested in your manipulation of us. We're going to systematically reduce all this stuff. It'll take time, may take generations, and may go real fast. I think if it goes too fast, it'll be sort of like old boss, new boss thing. It'll be like a French Revolution, heads roll, but the old boss is the same. The new boss is the same as the old boss. So it can happen. It could potentially happen fast, like a Ceausescu moment. Our number one son says he feels the Ceausescu moment would be the kind of epiphany that's required, but I think Romania is still in the shitter. Maybe not quite as bad as with Ceausescu, but I think it'll take longer. It won't be like a quickie. Let the heads roll, and then you have the vision of a new and the epiphany has expanded the meaning of the universe, and we're going to live in tranquility and peace and all that kind of stuff. No, it's going to take a long time, but I'm hopeful. And don't listen to all these predictors when they give a timeline on shit. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. And everything indicates to me that it's going to be, or let me put it this way. We have 8 months will in some version come true, obviously. In some version, it'll come true. You can attach yourself to these predictions. But ultimately, this is a much more fundamental awakening. Whether or not in 8 months the manipulation is going to be on such a level that AI controls everything and we're in the matrix and plugged in and all of this, this is going to, this entire experience is going to come down to personal epiphanies and the recognition of the kingdom within. This is what I think. And this is incremental. This will take time. The more people become aware of that inner spark that they have, that flame that burns inside, that needs to be protected. You have to make sure this flame isn't blown out. And this is where the revolution will begin. It's on an inner level, not on an external level. I appreciate all the great commentary that reveal the depravities, but I find very little support in this notion that I feel spontaneous and random insights from the studio that really always comes down to our very personal inner world, having that sense of spark and flame burning. That's what's required. Anyway, all the best to all of you. And I'm not posting that much because my last comment is in my own work. I'm finding it difficult to paint. I've never really experienced it the way I'm experiencing now. What I'm sensing, what I'm feeling in myself is there is no point in making a mark unless it has that sense of urgency. And I know there's a large contingent of people that say it's sort of like you practice and you go, and no matter what, it's that work ethic. I understand that. But after a certain time, I mean, I'm almost 70, and what happens is that I went through that. I've gone through that feeling of no matter what, you make your marks and you continue, whether or not people are interested or not, you're just dedicated to this thing. But the mark itself must have a sense of that urgency that comes from within. And I haven't felt that urgency, which is interesting considering all the shit that's going on. But my inner world is quite, I don't know, it's quite resolved and in some ways relaxed, and just sitting back and saying, you don't need to do anything unless you have that sense of urgency. So what I'm doing is, as you see back there, I'm making frames for, I am working with watercolors. My bigger paintings or the oil paintings that I usually work on have not actually, I've not felt that impulse, but we'll see. Maybe it'll start tomorrow. Maybe it'll start in a year. I don't know. But I'm not going to make any marks unless I feel that urgency. It may help somebody out there. I mean, if you're someone, especially a more mature creative artist person, there is no need to make the work unless there's an urgency. And there is no time frame on this either. It doesn't matter whether you're 80 or whether you're 20. That urgency needs to be there. When we're younger, there is that work ethic thing going on and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, my thoughts today.